As some of you may know, there was a recent report by the OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, that suggested that the Assad government did in fact carry out a chemical attack against his own people. However, something very interesting has come up. An internal document from the OPCW. Now, it's not really known who leaked it, but it was an internal document that basically trashed the official story and said that it wasn't true. And it noticed several very glaring mistakes in the official story that was put out by the OPCW, and that the incident could not have occurred the way they claim it did. Now, this comes from Caitlin Johnstone, someone who has been following many imperialist actions very, very closely. She notes that there's a very interesting hole in the story, that the damage to the ceiling of the rooms where the gas canisters were found were completely inconsistent with something that was dropped from a plane, in that it could not have been dropped from a plane. It would have had to have been moved there by ground. Now, this runs completely counter to what the OPCW claims, and that it was dropped from the sky. That's a very big hole in the story. Now, the report picks apart the extremely shaky physics and narratives of the whole OPCW analysis. Now, the thing concludes that the dimensions, characteristics, and appearance of the cylinders and the surrounding scene of the incidents were inconsistent with what would have been expected in the case of a cylinder being delivered by an aircraft. Now, this internal memo states that the only plausible, that it being manually moved into these positions by ground forces is the only true plausible explanation for the observations at the scene. The observations at the scene contradict the official story, and the only way for the official story to make sense is if they were actually moved in from the ground, not dropped from the sky, as claimed. This means the OPCW lied, and their own internal documents, memos that are inside their own organization, are calling them out on it. Now, it's not entirely known where these, exactly who leaked these internal memos, but the memos are purported to be real and do point to real holes in the official story, and that is the problem. The photographic evidence does not match the official story given by the OPCW, and it seems perfectly legitimate to claim that this false story was created in order to justify the attacks that were carried out by the US, the UK, and France against the Syrian government, which is trying to defend itself from terrorists that are funded by the United States and also supplied by Saudi Arabia and Israel. So the whole official story is completely broken down, and the OPCW has now shown that it absolutely cannot be trusted in any way, shape, or form. Now, she does also note a very interesting letter that was sent to her by one of her viewers. This article doesn't really express how damning the report actually is. It's much more than just on balance of their observations are inconsistent with the cylinders being dropped from an aircraft. Just about everything in the official narrative is shown to be plain impossible, from the angles of the broken rebar in the roof, to the damage to the gas cylinders, to the piles of fins on the balcony that couldn't have been attached to the cylinder, and more. There's simply no way they were dropped from helicopters. I think this additional evidence finally puts to rest the lie that the Assad government carried out a chemical attack against his own people, or its own people. It is now very clear that these things are being faked by US-backed terrorists inside the country, and that perhaps once and for all, this should finally put the death knell on the lies against the Syrian government, and that hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, the US, the UK, France, etc., should be finally held criminally responsible for the actions it has taken inside of Syria, and finally put an end to the OPCW, that it has finally completely and utterly discredited itself.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.